Family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q-Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q-Time, an Urban Passport member.
The Creole seasoning is a sodium-free and sugar-free blend that's versatile enough to put on anything. One of the first blends I developed more than 8 years ago, the Creole seasoning has an unmistakable aroma, a bold flavor, and a little heat for character. Every time I open one of these bottles, I hear trumpets and big band music.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time, so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammy Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices.
YT Productions.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy, you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay, just tune into the HBCU Sports Lab, with Dr. Bill, Mike and Charles, and I'm time.
Smooth. Another shot.
One enemy remaining.
One.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington. Oops, did I say Mike Washington? Mike Washington is on assignment. We have Joe Clay sitting in his chair in his stead, and Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 98 on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab show and podcast, the show that is covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports, for institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington. Oops, did I say that again? Sitting in here, Joe Clay and Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studio and sending a signal live to our KCOH 12:30 a.m. studios from Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Today's show will be a good one, as we will discuss the latest HBCU sports news with none other than Joe Clay and Charles Bishop. We will also have a special guest with Chris Neely and Corey Collins, as well as Charles Bishop. Tiger Talk of the 1400 Club podcast. We'll bring them on about 6:15 and get into all the mix about what they're doing in Tiger country, as they say it down in those parts. I love. Just so y'all recognize, man, I do my homework. I know what's up. With that being said, let me go ahead and jump in there. And as I said, you're going to see us do a lot more of this as we move forward. We have a lot of great organizations that are covering HBCU sports out there. We're going to be able to bring on guest individuals that are leading their podcasts, visual updates on HBCU sports. We're going to incorporate that into the platform we have here as we spin off into a second show. So with that, let me jump in here and go with Charles Bishop first. How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing well, Dr. Cavil. Had a nice Merry Christmas and back from traveling. So we're back in the lab for another session tonight.
Man, can you believe that? Boy, I tell you, the last lab session of the year, 2020. Right. I'm not sure whether I'm sad or happy.
A lot going on.
Man, 2020 has been just a little different, It's definitely been different.
It's been a lot to adjust to, but here we are. Sort of the last show of the year, and 2020 has definitely been a year not like any other, definitely that I can remember. But here we are, and we're going to continue to push through going into 2021.
No doubt about it. I hope you had a great Christmas. I want to say happy Kwanzaa for you all. Yes. This is day 4. Just to give you all an update for those that are following that is Ujamaa, corporate economics, 3 parts as Dr. Karanga broke down. Number 1, share wealth and work, economic self-reliance, and the obligation of generosity. One of the reasons why we're going to circle back as we bring people to jump on the show, and it worked out perfectly this week, because I'm bringing up Joe Clay. He's better known to us, and that's Joseph Clay. He's better known to us as
government
Joe Clay.
Name.
Yeah, as Joe Clay. And you're going to get a little spin on his different framework, man. He brings it in just a way that will entertain you in so many different ways as he brings it in. But he's sitting in the captain chair. He's going to do a spinoff, and so he's getting a little live function. But you have heard us teasing out the Sports and Culture Podcast, 1876. He's one of the founding members of that show that will debut in January. So it's right around the corner. So it's perfect time. He's on there with Mike Washington, Alan Williams, boy, I'm chopping him up here. with a couple of other colleagues, and we'll break that down as we move forward to give you that type of information on what that looks like. Give him the chance to kind of jump in there. But without that, he's also a great member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So yeah, you see a theme going around here. It is the people that I hang with. It just happens to be like that.
It just works out that way.
It just works out that way. Some great brothers out there, Phi Beta Sigma, Kappa Alpha Psi, and Omega Psi Fraternity. Don't want to leave out Iota Phi Theta in terms of what they get done out there either. Even though I'm not familiar with those guys my age in this area, but they also putting in the work of the Panhellenic along with our sisters of the sororities that are out there. But enough of that. Joe Clay, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. On vacation, sitting at the crib, pontificating about the SWAC, HBCU sports, and how this thing is going. We've got notice of a couple cancellations, so I'm just wondering, like everybody else, what is the next couple weeks and the next few months hold?
No doubt about it. It's going to be one of those things as we move forward in terms of what's going on. How things are going to shape, as you said, the cancellation with some news of the day. And that's what we do at the first part of the show. So I'm going to go right back to you as you got in there. What is the news of the day in terms of the cancellation in the HBCU world? What are you hearing?
Well, the Southern U game has been canceled. We all know that the SIAC has been, they already canceled their whole season. So was it the Southern TSU game? I believe it was canceled coming up today or tomorrow. Yeah. So
out there, and I want to get both of y'all thoughts on this. It was just released today. I got a little update last night that it may be coming after a late call, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. Is that Texas Southern University had some on the men's side. It's important that we put that context on the men's side, that they had some players test positive in terms of COVID-19. So they're going into the protocols, and that meant that they will have to wait a period of time, and therefore their game against Southern and Alcorn State was canceled. It also was later revealed that a couple of hours later, I believe, at least from the SWAC office, that Alabama A&M's game with Grambling and Jackson State, because some players from Alabama A&M also test positive. So they had to go into the protocol. So those games were canceled. So I believe that this is going to be just part of the world we live in during this winter semester. And it's going to be interesting. I'm thinking about the academic year, this winter term, I guess you talk about, as they talk about the athletic season is going to go on. And this came up on BJ Jones as he was asking how he was feeling about the spring football. And he said he was, feeling about 40-50%, not very high. Certainly could understand that. But I told him really one of your first glimpses to see how well would spring football take place is be an indicator of what's going to happen in winter in terms of men's and women's basketball. So with that, let me go to Charles Bishop. As I see you have your new attire on with Jackson State. With the underarm. Must be nice when the people at 1400 Club, Neely back there checking us out before he jumps in here. It must be nice. Is he feeding you this kind of stuff? I know you made that special trip home. You told me you were checking on the family. I see you were going into the Under Armour secret stash with Coach Prime over there. You got that little vibe. Everybody talking about when Coach gonna do an interview. He did an interview with the 1400 Club. He did it at home. I don't know what they're talking about. And I see it's nice to have connections because you have Under Armour, Jackson State University. That must be one of the first ones out there released. Tell us a little bit about that, Charles. How you doing on it?
I got my hands on a few pots over there in Jackson, so I was able to procure.
No, you can't. He didn't bring back the brothers, nothing.
I have to make sure I take care of Dr. Cavil and Mike, and don't worry, it's coming, But I had to put my hand in one of the pots and say thank you. So
to take care of yourself first.
Was able to come across a little Under Armour action that
time. That's right, Joe. You see him, he to take care of himself first.
Take care of himself. I don't blame him.
Before I go back to you, Joe, and let you know your thoughts on that. And Did you have any other thoughts that you want to share on that, Charles? I know I was teaching about the gear, but in terms of the cancellation, what are your thoughts in terms of that going down?
Well, it's very interesting because what we're going to have to see over the next few weeks, whether this is a precursor of something large in terms of basketball game cancellations, and will that diminish the sort of appetite for spring football when you have potential consistent cancellations? You know, there will become sort of a momentum in terms of why are we continuing to go forward with a season. So it'll be interesting to see, but hopefully protocols will be met and we can get an opportunity to see games. But this is the world in which we live in, and we know it's going to get worse before it gets better. So we're all hopeful for the safety of all our student athletes.
No doubt about it. Let me jump on here and give a shout out for those that have joined us before we go to Joe and get your thoughts on that, Joe Clay. Kimberly Reynolds, president of the Prairie View National Alumni Association, always showing us much love. Belinda Johnson. Willie Alex Hines says, Happy New Year's, everyone. Here for the weekly HBCU Sports Election, checking in from Richmond, Virginia. That is CIAA country. Reynolds did say happy holidays. Dallas is in the house. Wendy Jenkins Bishop is checking us out on, as always. Shout out to her. Willie Alex Hines says, are we going to have HBCU sports? Numbers are going up again. Yeah, that's a great question. LaShawn Harris says, hey. Jarvis Austin is checking us out. John Jenkins. A.D. Drew with the poll rankings. We gave him a hard time last time. I'm glad he showed back up. That's our boy A.D. Drew of the BCSN network, getting it done for what he does with Brian on the sports rap. Trudy Jackson, Kate Johnson says, Happy New Year's, HBCU Sports Lab. She's always giving us great love. Good evening, HBCU Lab fanatics. Yes. Hello, Willie Alex Hines says, Chuck Huntington, where you at? Ralph Cooper, the Hall of Famer, giving us much love. Don Johnson. A.D. Drew says, we are surprised how students went home for a few days over the break and there are positive COVID tests. I just don't know. He's just saying, I'm just saying. Yeah. Reginald Kennedy, Reggie Howe, good afternoon. That's CIAA country. Tony Daniels, Ralph Cooper, as I said, just giving some shout outs. Keep it coming in, likes and shares out there. Joe Clay, what are your thoughts in terms of winter basketball? What does it mean in terms of these cancellations? Just getting off of the thing as we get ready to bring in our guests.
I think basketball season is going to be tough with all the travel, the numbers coming up, the COVID numbers. It's going to be tough. They're going to try. They're going to try to push through it. I know we lost the whole season last year, so basketball is going to be tough. But if you try to look towards football, the football season, football is the insatiable beast. So I think the appetite for spring football is going to be there no matter what the numbers are in the spring, no matter what happens with basketball. I think folks are going to want to see their football teams play in the spring. If it can be successfully pulled off and safely pulled off, the fans are going to be there. They're going to want to see it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of concern for our boys out there on the field. I'm proud that the SWAC has, I think, put health concerns first. Dr. McClellan has put health concerns first for our student athletes. So I believe if we can do it safely, we're going to see a SWAC football season.
Great points, great points. And to that point, as we said, president of the National Alumni Association for Prairie View A&M University, Kim Reynolds says, marketing and ticket sales have already begun here in Dallas for the PV GSU game scheduled for February 27th. She says, I'm not convinced. But yeah, I seen that flyer and everybody got hyped. With that, this is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington. Filling in for Mike Washington is Joe Clay and Charles Bishop. And just in time for our special guests, we have Christopher Neely, Corey Collins, along with Charles Bishop, our very own Charles Bishop, to bring us Tiger Talk, or the 1400 Club podcast. Let's get into this interview as we talk a little bit about the 1400 Club, just to give everybody insight in terms of what that is for those that may not know. Bring you the latest news, updates, and buzz surrounding Jack State University athletics. I guess I'm just saying, it sounds like y'all have your hand fooled right now. With that, let me start off with you in terms of this, Neely, if you would, since you've been gracious and caught on the first part of the show and was sitting up there waiting for us so patiently. First, let me say, I like the background. You did a good job in terms of the visual. You know what you're doing. You got your Jackson State stuff set up there real nice. So you are legit in terms of I love. So and then he puts on the GOAT, just so people recognize, let him know what he's doing. As you have in there, CD is I'm sure what you have in there. Is that how you want me to call you at this time, CD? Is that fine? I can't hear you there, so we'll need to check out the volume. As we get that straight, we'll come back and let's go with Corey to jump back in here. Corey, as we're working on CD to check out his volume, we'll get Roy to work with you quickly there as you check it out. Check on your mics and those things, and we'll get going. But the Corey, I see.
Had to change that.
Get that illustrated correctly. As we talk about the 1400 Club, let me just start with you, and then we'll go back to CD to see his thoughts on this. What was the impetus for this?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing us to come on this platform. We obviously appreciate you and what you do for the culture, the SWAC HBCU. So it's an honor for us to be on your platform. Now, obviously, you've come on our show, and that was a wonderful show. Our fans absolutely love hearing from you. So I just wanted to make sure that I personally take the time to thank you for allowing us to do this. In terms of the podcast, well, honestly, I think it started about a year or so ago, because we as Jackson State, we just weren't getting the coverage from our local media that we are accustomed to getting and deserve, rightfully so. For whatever reasons, we won't get into that on the show, but there's been some back and forth about that. So a bunch of us, including, obviously Charles Bishop and Neely, we always talk Jackson State sports. So we just decided to feed the fan base because we have a lot of connections. And I say I'm really kind of piggybacking off Charles Bishop. He has all the connections throughout the SWAC. So, but I'm including myself since we're a team. We have all these connections and, to the different players and coaches.
Well said.
Absolutely. So we decided, hey, you know what? Let's start a podcast so that we can feed this starving fan base and give them what they wanted. But it's really three things that we've tried to focus on. Obviously, just kind of bridging that gap in terms of not getting the coverage that we deserve, but also bridging the gap from the old to the new in terms of the current students and alumni and that older generation. There's kind of a void there, and there's a lot of history that Jackson State has that the older generation knows about, but we wanted to make sure that that's passed down to this current generation. And the third thing was to preserve that history because, again, there is a lot of history when it comes to Jackson State, so we didn't want it to get lost. So we wanted to have something on record that 5 years, 10 years from now that we can always refer back to. So when Coach Prime was hired on December 1st, we wanted that there to be a reference where we can go back. My kids can go back and listen to it and just experience what it was like. So those are the three main reasons why we kind of kicked this thing off.
Great way to break that down. Before I share the mic, let's go back to CD Neely, as they like to say in those parts, is my understanding.
Yes, sir.
You got boots on the ground now, and I heard the interview that you all did with Coach Prime, as he likes to be called. I thought it was a great interview to get that insight, and you really tugged at some questions there. So I want to know, for the people out there that are interested, what is Coach Prime like in terms of Jackson with the boots on the ground, the experience? We've heard all this on the internet. We've heard all this marketing, as I call it, about getting a bigger picture and reaching to those who he's trying to recruit. People think this is all about them and they want to have all this great HBCU sports. This guy is brilliant. If anybody's ever followed his career, whether you like him or not, he knows how to change the numbers. But I want to get a little insight for your perspective. What is Coach Prime like, boots to the ground there in Jackson, Mississippi?
Well, Doc, I also want to say and echo Corey, thank you for having us on. And as he mentioned, it was certainly a pleasure having you on Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club, and the door is wide open for you to come back anytime because our guests loved your content and we love you as well. One thing I'll say about Coach Prime, having had to, as you put it, boots on the ground here in Jackson and been around him, he really is as advertised. You see a lot of products out there, and what you see in the media doesn't necessarily match what you get when you get the product in your hand. I don't care if you're going to, get a hamburger, get a pizza, or get some shoes. Oftentimes there's a drop off between the marketing and what you actually get. What you see him promote, what you see him push, the words you hear him use as he talk about HBCU, specifically Jackson State University, and what he wants to do as it relates to recruiting to our university and how that can impact all HBCUs. He's like that off the record. I would say one of his key components in this is his sincerity. Clearly he has a track record in business, a track record in football, a track record in broadcasting and marketing and branding. But his track record in being sincere when he's all in on something, and something he touched on, Doc, on our episode, on a subsequent interview I did with him on signing day, was, hey, you can't get more all in than bringing your kids here. And so when you see him putting not only his money.
Man, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I know. It looks like
that was good. It was perfect when you talk about the fact that he said all in.
Yeah.
Which is to Neely's point. We have a lot of coaches that go around and talk about
his house, and two of his sons are now at Jackson State getting ready to play football. So there's no more boots on the ground and no more example personification of being all in than that.
Great point. I really like the way that you brought that to the floor, because we have a lot of coaches, as I was saying there, that will take a job, but their kids will go somewhere else. And that gives you a little indication in terms of just how in they are. But not only his son that was coming out of high school, but in terms of the transfer. Obviously, it made the move easier that coaching change was there. But the fact that he could have stayed there and waited to see who was named or whatever, he made the decision immediately, pretty much once that decision was made. And he says, I'm coming there. We're going to get this done. With that, Charles, I want to get a little bit of your thought. And you've had the ability on the show to kind of share with us a little bit, but now you have your team with you. You get a chance now to come in a little more in regards to what that looks like from the 1400 club perspective. Sure. You come in and out of Mississippi based on, checking on family and things of the nature, still staying relevant in terms of Jackson State University and beyond. But what does that look like as you're doing that?
Well, first and foremost, working with these guys, they're brilliant. And it's a collective of us. I kind of jokingly refer to the 1400 Club as kind of a Wu-Tang of individuals. It's more than D. Corey C, Neely, and myself, who you might see on various episodes. But it's great in terms of working with a lot of individuals who share that passion for Jackson State sports and HBCU sports. So it's awesome to really get the conversation flowing on the podcast in terms of like Corey said, kind of bridging that gap, if you will, bringing that older generation to the current generation and really highlighting not just the current Jackson State format in terms of athletics, but really bringing shining light to the days of yesteryear, if you will, and really talking it up. And we've had some brilliant guests who've really just done a phenomenal job in terms of talking about their time playing, not just at Jackson State, but playing in the SWAC.
I appreciate you bringing up the fact that this is maybe one core facet of it, but it extends beyond that. Which brings us to Joe Clay, and what you're doing in a lot of ways to 1876 is that you have a very broad number of people that you're bringing onto the table. There's 5 other with you. We'll give you a little chance on the second part of the show to talk a little bit more about the 1876. But if you would, I think you bring an interesting perspective as you're kicking off a podcast in a lot, and you've dug down in terms of your high school perspective. Obviously, your expertise is in a lot of ways the football side of things in the SWAC. Follow up with these gentlemen in whichever direction you want to go, Joe. Ask a follow-up question in terms of what you're looking at in terms of the podcast.
Oh, I think first of all, the sentiments that Corey mentioned earlier was spot on, providing a voice to the local area because there may not be a voice there from the local market. That was spot on, promoting the history of it. I've been listening to the 1400 Club for the last few months, and the way that you guys wrap the history of JSU in with the football exposure, and then with Dion jumping in, y'all are working 1400 Club and Prime are working perfectly together in promoting the history of JSU and just highlighting all the pros and all the reasons to come to JSU. I would step back also to the fact that Deion's two sons came in, a 4-star quarterback and a 3-star DB. That was huge because, like you said, oftentimes a head coach will get a job and his sons will go somewhere else. If you can't get your sons to come play for you, why should I come play for you? That makes no sense to me. I don't care what school we are. I don't care if we're in Wakalana Junior College. If I'm coaching there, my sons need to be there to help me recruit other kids because it's a family affair. So I think that was huge. I've seen a lot of hate of Prime, a lot.
See, that wasn't y'all. Y'all didn't have to say that. I didn't set him up. That's just Joe Clay being Joe Clay.
I'm just to tell it like it is. Prime is doing his thing, man, and the 1400 Club is helping to promote Prime's message, and so again, I think you guys are working in harmony. It's beautiful. I've been sitting back and just taking notes about how y'all are just using your platform to really help Deion spread his message and get those recruits in there, and it's spreading across the country. So I don't know what your demographics were, your listening audience was, but it ain't just in Mississippi.
Oh no,
it's all across the country, if not international, because we have plenty of international football fans of Prime. So he is a master marketer. Again, the 1400 Club has done a great job of using Deion to help elevate your platform and JSU's platform. It's been beautiful. I've been taking notes, like I said, and I'm 1,000% sure other people who want to get into the same business to promote their school are taking notes as well off of what you guys are doing.
That's right.
Appreciate it.
I'll let your boy, executive producer Roy, he's in the background, and we're going to make this happen. We're going to create a huge platform to deliver this. We would like to see this across the SWAC and even more so across HBCUs. We want to be the deliverable of helping you if you're not already there in terms of set up the podcast, and that's why we created this platform in the way we are. We're not just about THG. We're not just about inside the HBCU Sports Lab. My name may be on the front of it. Again, that's just a marketing employee. I happen to have a doctorate, so it sounds good when you say Dr. Cavil. And when I speak, it seems like I'm supposed to mean something. Hopefully, I deliver that most of the time. But that is the marketing brilliance of that. But the real people, the real boots on the ground, are the folks that you're listening into and giving you this information. And there are more out there that want to represent their institution. Come to us. Come to myself. Come to Roy. We'll put that platform down. We have individuals that are working this, from folks that are writing scripts. We have folks that are doing different stuff in terms of Chris Gardner that does some other production work in the background as well. So you have a team when you come and join THG, come and join THG. When I say that, I'm saying the Heritage Group, in terms of understanding the value of the production and working as a team, not just the individual, which is what we call ourselves in terms of this family. So I meant that when I talked about Happy Kwanzaa and breaking that down. I want you to understand where we're going as an entity. Enough of that talk. Let me get back to our group and really breaking them down. Before we do that, this is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Holding you down for Mike Washington is Joe Clay, and we have with us our guests, Neely and Corey of Tiger Talk of the 1400 Club podcast. Listen back as we go to a commercial break. Dr. Bill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, giving you all the love. Sitting in for Mike Washington in the chair, hot seat, is Joe Clay, with none other than the Sports and Culture Podcast of 1876. But today we have Neely and Corey with Charles Bishop of the Tiger Talk of the 1400 Club podcast. Let me go straight back to you, D. Corey, as in D. I love.
That's right.
Tell us more in regards to what is the next step? What are some things that you believe that we need to understand with the podcast? Why should people listen, even if they're not necessarily Jackson State fans?
Absolutely. Well, first, let's go back to the beginning. You know, honestly, when we started this thing off, we had no idea where it was going to go. We knew it would be a lot of fun. We love talking Jackson State sports. We do it. We're doing it all the time. So we said, you know what, let's hit record and let other people hear it. If they want to hear it, great. If not, hey, we'll listen to ourselves. I said, I know my mom will listen to it. But before we knew it, it started to grow. We didn't reach out to the Jackson State athletics department and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We just started a podcast. They reached out to us. So we're here from the sports media guys, the athletics director. And before we know it, they're sending us guests and legends are contacting us. Hey, can I come on the show? And we're like, okay, so we're going to interview these legends now. And it truly evolved into something that we had never expected. So we've interviewed senators. We've interviewed, with the flag obviously changing in the state of Mississippi. We've interviewed Charlie Neal. We've interviewed, the list goes on and on and on. The president of Jack State has been on multiple times. So it's evolved into something that's larger than sports. We've interviewed the student body president. So it's more than a sports podcast. We touch on everything from the economy to the social issues, racial issues, injustice, all types of things. So it's really just going in a direction that we never planned on it, but we're just kind of going along for the ride, and we're going to see how far we can take it. We're glad to be an inspiration to other schools to start something similar. So my advice would be just be prepared for it to take off and go in a direction that you may not have planned for, but we're constantly adjusting and constantly kind of, going with the flow of where it's taking us, and we're excited about it.
No doubt about it. Great insight there. Joe Clay, did you have a question for Neely you want to follow up, or you want me to jump back in there?
Yeah, I've got a question. So just how do you, on a weekly basis, what gives you the direction for your format? Like, how do y'all decide, well, this week are we going to focus on history? This week we're going to focus on Dion. This week we're going to focus on whatever. And I heard Corey say, hey, y'all have folks calling y'all trying to be on the show now. So how do you work or play your show from a week-to-week basis?
Neely, let's start with you and then go back to Corey. And then I want you to chime in too, Charles.
Sure.
It is, Doc and Clay, it is amazing how much of this happens without our planning. Keep in mind, when this first got underway in the spring, this was going to be a sports podcast, and then sports got canceled. And so you're wringing your hands and you're thinking about, oh man, what are we going to do now? And one thing we have not had a challenge with is content. And, you have this date now in JSU sports. You got BP before Prime and AP after Prime. We didn't have an issue with content before Prime. Right. And so after September 21st, that certainly has changed. We were able to get up to a significant amount of episodes without that influx of attention. And it speaks to just the credibility of the program. I think that people are thirsty for information. We live in a world where you can tweet fast and you can make an Instagram post, but it doesn't give you a lot of depth. But one thing the podcast does, you can take those same subjects and you can spend 20, 30, 45 minutes on it and getting insights that did not make the front page or did not make that tweet because of the character count. We sat down with Coach Prime on signing day. Literally in the afternoon of his first signing day, we were able to sit down with him for some 20 minutes. ESPN didn't get that. And so when you talk about access and you talk about credibility, all of those things just lend itself to your growth. And so, Joe, to answer your question, man, we tried to have a plan, and Corey gets on me. We have this Facebook group, and and this is
I can hear you, Corey. I was trying to map out, how do we get to episode 100? Corey's like, man, stop trying. Like we have no idea what guest's gonna come up because somebody calls, some breaking news happened, Coach Prime does a tweet. You have no idea. So you have a roadmap, but you have to turn the GPS off and just go with it.
All right.
I love it. Go ahead, jump in, D. Corey.
Yeah, he summed it up. Well, first of all, I'm a very organized person. I like to plan things out, map it out. So for the podcast, I'll try to map out the month. Okay, this show's going to air on Monday and Wednesday. throw it all out of the window. And
I just want to break in there. I know you say that. I just thank you for that, Charles. You heard that, Charles? Mike is out here.
Yeah.
You gonna get a little bit of this Mike love. See that, Joe? You see that?
Organization is a good thing.
Yeah,
I'm with
Thank you. Go ahead.
it's a good thing, but this podcast, at least Tiger Talk, is the enemy of organization. I mean, we're organized, but in terms of trying to plan it out. Quick story. So we were trying to plan out our 100th episode. It was a couple months ago. We were looking at the number of shows we were dropping. And this was nearly. He projected us to get to show 100 around the kickoff of football season. So we were trying to plan, or he was going to plan something around the kickoff of football season, and we got to show 100 December 4th, to give you an idea. So when it comes to planning, you can forget about it. Matter of fact, we were planning out this week's shows or the shows throughout the holidays, and we had a JSU legend. I won't call any names unless Neely or Charles wants to say the specific name, but the legend reached out to us almost upset because he hadn't been invited on the show yet. So we had to scratch everything and said, no, if this legend wants to come on, let's bring him on. We have 4 Hall of Famers who haven't been on the show. Well, obviously not all, all are alive, but Walter Payton's not alive, but the other 3 Hall of Famers, they have not been on the show yet. And it's been a year and we haven't played probably 10 or 15 sporting events since the show has been around, to give you an idea, but we still haven't had a chance to get to our Hall of Famers. That was the first thing that I started planning out. Oh, we have these Hall of Famers. Yeah, these guys are going to be on the show within the first month, and we still haven't gotten around to them. So
great story, great insight. Charles, what's your thoughts, man? You're part of this. Give us some backstory, man.
Well, I think the unique thing about the podcast and the driving force within the podcast is the Jackson State fan base. They have an insatiable need for Jackson State news, Jackson State athletics news. And that is, kind of the driving force in behind the podcast. We joke about waking up the inbox about, why don't you, reach out to this person, here's phone number, that sort of thing. So when we talk about throwing out the roadmap, that really happens because it's like, it is a great individual to try to bring on. So we've had, things like that happen. But I mean, the Jackson State's fan base, and Corey mentioned it at the beginning of the interview, because there was a need, there was a gap for Jackson State athletic information, and we were able to come in and sort of fill in that gap, and it's really taken off. And I can't say enough about Jackson State's fan base. They don't, and I've said this before, they don't share that love with the other teams in the state. Jackson State is their team. So that's what they want to hear about. That's what they want to know about. And we take pride in sort of having barbershop conversations about any and everything in regards to Jackson, the city of Jackson, and Jackson State athletics, because Jackson State athletics is a huge economic driving force within the city.
Certainly. So you all been nice. Y'all been clean and polished up. I know y'all were coming on to the show and y'all ready. Charles, let's drop the mic. Let's get behind the mic. Give me a story on Neely and or the Corey that the people want to know. Give us some insight. Give us some backdrop, some time.
Give us some prime dirt.
What y'all doing? I think I got one of them for you. But
I have one too.
Decide what you want to do.
I have one too.
Go ahead, Corey, because we might have the same one.
Well, okay, so I've met Charles in real life, like in person, twice. I've met Neely once. That was September 1st. So we were about 8 months into the show before we ever met. And one of the coaches, he found out recently that Neely and Charles, after they go back, they've known each other. But me, I haven't really met these guys. So the coach could not believe it. He said he thought that we grew up together just based on the chemistry of the show. But yeah, we're in different areas. I'm in Orlando, Charles in Houston, obviously Neely's in Jackson, and we do it remotely. And I've only met him a couple times.
But that's the barbershop.
That is my Mike story right there. Charles, you got another story you want to share quickly?
Yeah, I mean, the podcast itself is so much fun, and I tell you, Corey is a tremendous executive producer in terms of putting things together, and Neely is his analytical mind. I often joke with him all the time, like, how did you think of that? That is that sort of a relationship. But I mean, Neely calls himself the people's champion. He is. He knows some of everybody.
But he goes around wearing a sweatshirt that says gold on it.
Exactly, and that is who he is. I mean, he is well known in the city of Jackson. Everybody knows Neely. So he's been a tremendous addition to the podcast, and Corey putting the podcast together. I tell you, it's been a labor of love. We really have a lot of fun talking Jackson State athletics.
Well, I didn't share this, so Neely, it wouldn't be fair if I wouldn't let you get a piece of this. So you get a chance, and you can take a shot, either both or one of them, whatever you want to do.
Well, I'll take a shot at myself and Charles. This is a triumvirate, so to speak. You got the three of us, integral parts, and everybody has their role and what they do well, and we mind each other's lanes, but sometimes you have to have overlap. And so we were, Charles and I were getting ready to do a show without our producer, without the Corey C. And that one particular guest was the dean of HBCU sports. And when I tell you, I want to tell your listeners out there, man, in the sports lab, that we had an outstanding show. I dare say it was one of the best shows, not in HBCU sports history, just in sports analysis, economic impact history, except for one thing took place. Charles, I'm putting it on him. You see that, right, Doc? Charles did not hit record. So we recorded. we did an hour show with Doc that nobody got to hear but the three of us. And so Corey refers to it as three guys on the phone. And that's all it was. It never was a podcast episode. But, that's what happens when you try to, hey, man, we want to do a show. The producer busy. Let's do it anyway. But the show never got recorded, Doc.
Yeah, I remember. It was great. I'm glad you shared that, so I would have had to. I wanted Joe Clay to hear that because I know just to give him a little insight, hey, man, you can have, as B. Corey, you can have all the plans in the world. You can be ready to go, and it happens. But that's part of the family. That's part of the fun because I don't even remember half the things I said during that show because I come off freestyle a lot of times. So give me a framework and we'll run with it. And it was great dialogue amongst us, I would say. But it will be one of those things that we'll take with us and find a way to share maybe later because it was there, but it wasn't there. So I'm glad for that. With that, this is the final part. Let me give you a moment to share something that we hadn't asked you that you really want to share. I'm going to start with you, Neely, and then we'll bring it around the horn and go with you, Corey, and then Charles. And then we'll allow you to go. I know your schedules are busy, and I really appreciate you taking out this time. We'll go ahead and Neely jump in there and close us out with some thoughts.
Well, sure, man. I just appreciate the Sports Lab, for having us on. And this is certainly something that is needed through the HBCU universe that's out there for all schools and all the tentacles and things that we touch.
Let me jump in there and let me say, D. Corey, jump in there with your thoughts and we'll get Neely back in there as he chimes back in.
Well, I just want to say that what just happened is perfect because that's how our podcasts go. We lose Neely every 10 minutes. His Wi-Fi, he won't upgrade his Wi-Fi at home or at the office. So I'm used to this. It may be new for you on the show, but that's Neely dropping off.
Take around some coins and help that brother out for the team.
Oh, yeah.
What part of Mississippi is he in?
Jackson, believe it or not. I mean, how does this happen? But that's what it is. He's being cheap on upgrade the Wi-Fi. He did get a set of headsets though, so sounds a lot better. Thanks to Chuck. But other than no, it's just been a lot of fun. We enjoyed doing it. It takes up a lot of our day. We're talking throughout the day on the phone, texting. So even when we're not recording, we're still communicating with one another. And hey, I wouldn't trade this podcast in for the world. I love Chuck and Neely and. We have some other hosts as well. They aren't on as often as us, but I definitely want to shout them out. But the entire 1400 club, and thanks to A.D. Robinson and Dennis Driscoll over at Jackson State Athletics for supporting us.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead, Neely, chime back in. We got the first part as you did, but we still want to give you a chance to close out. We did tease you. We're gonna take around the plates and make sure we get some coins in there so we can help you update the Wi-Fi. Since
you know what? I am not too proud to take charity. Now, when you give. You better make sure that you put that line item on there because I might use it for something else, So you might want to pay the Wi-Fi people directly because you get to me, I'm going to have another priority.
We'll make sure that makes sense.
Doc, I just want to say, that this has certainly been a labor of love. People, you hear these 30-minute or 45-minute shows, what have you think that's all it takes, but the hours that Corey C puts in and Chuck puts in, it's that the product speaks for itself on the back end. It just because something look easy don't mean it is. There's a lot of work involved, and we appreciate the support. Each one of us brings something unique to the table, and it has a bearing on the fruit that comes out of this process. I'm just looking forward to 2021, what this show can become with sports, because we've been able to do all this in the absence of sports. So I think that it's going to grow. I encourage all other HBCUs to look at what they have to offer, consider doing a podcast, because now we're in an era where we don't have to have permission to put our content out. You used to have to ask somebody to send out a press release or hope they would air something. Now, from the push of a button from your own phone or laptop, you can communicate with the world. So who better to tell our story than us?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfectly said. Any closing thoughts that you want to go, Charles?
Yeah, I appreciate the ability of the podcast to sort of drive a narrative, if you will. And that's something, Dr. Cavil, you've taught me well in terms of using this platform to drive a narrative of HBCU athletics. So, and everything that surrounds HBCU athletics. So really appreciate you providing the platform, not just for myself, but obviously giving my cohorts here with Tiger Talk with 1400 Club an opportunity to talk about the podcast as well. And it is definitively a labor of love. And we do very much appreciate AD Ashley Robinson and SID Dennis Driscoll for allowing us that space to really have access within the athletic department.
No doubt about it. Great job, gentlemen. Look forward to hearing other great episodes. I know your time is valuable, but that will do it for us. And you have a partner here whenever you need it, whatever you need. I'm here to support, and just proud of the work that you're doing. Keep doing it. I love Jackson State University finest in terms of Christopher Neely, Corey Collins, and Charles Bishop of Tiger Talk of the 1400 Club podcast. We'll be right back as we sign them off. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We'll get into some more talk with Joe Clay sitting in for Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're going to break it down on some of the HBCU news of the week. We'll get into our little poll rankings to see what's going on the men's basketball side. As you know, we're going to get a lot of love there. As we're doing that, Steve Gaither jumps in and says, yes, more 1400 clubs. Steve Gaither, HBCU game day, if he giving you a thumbs off, y'all getting in some work. Because that man has broken the internet in terms of what they've done on their team of really changing the game. I'm really proud that we got into it early, partnering with them, and they are driving force in terms of what we're doing in terms, as you said earlier, Corey, in terms of the culture. Great point there. Shout out to Keisha Kelly as she brings in much love. That's between us, a little secret. I know Charles laughing because he got it good. Herbert Bolden of Texas Southern University giving some shout out. Kerry Wright. I saw we have somebody Virginia State on here. In terms of wanting to make sure I gave them appropriate shouts out earlier as we started getting into the conversation there. Dwight Moore, Thomas White, Mogul Threads is on here. George Walker, Warren Powell, all jumped in here and says, well, AD said 1400 Club got the interview that no one else could. No doubt about it. I want to make sure y'all got that plug because folks talk noise, but when you're about it, and y'all got it done. And not only the first one, y'all got a second one out there. People don't even know other than if you're in Jackson State and you getting the business from the 1400 Club, way to get it done, including interviews with the president. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you do it. With that, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll bring back at a couple of hours, be able to close out, but we got a little more talk for you with Joe Clay sitting in for Mike Washington with Charles Bishop. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We have Joe Clay sitting in for Mike Washington in the hot seat, just giving us some love, holding it down. I might say, good job, Joe Clay. I know you were talented, but I didn't know you come in here spur of the moment.
We intimidating background too.
Yeah, I see that. Represent. I guess that's that Sports and Culture podcast. Tell us a little more about that, since that's where you're going and driving the machine from that perspective.
Well, so it is the 1876 Sports and Culture podcast, looking to cover everything PVU, SWAC, HBCU, sports, culture, band. We've got the hosts of the show are Roland Austin, Mike Williams, Shanetta Haskell, who's a former drum major, and she'll be breaking down all the band performances and matchups from week to week. If you listen to our second teaser episode, she gives you a very good breakdown of what to expect from her. Then we also have a 3-time SWAC champion and All-American, Gati Warima. She will be doing all of the basketball analysis for us. So, and then driving the whole show from the Hill will be Al Williams. So we've got a lot of talented people all bringing different things to the table. We want to give a platform to all of PV student athletes, coaches, staff, and students. We'll have a segment on the podcast where we will have coaches and student athletes to come on from all sports. Then we'll have another segment on the show where current students will be able to come on and just tell us what's going on the Hill. They'll have be given a platform to talk about any endeavors that they've started. We've got plenty of students who are entrepreneurs, so we'll give them an opportunity to talk about their endeavors. So very excited. If we have a football season or not, we're still going to talk PV, sports, and culture. If we have a season, that's even better. So very excited, happy, appreciative of the inspiration and motivation that we got from the Tiger Talk and the 1400 Club, the inspiration, the gentle nudge that we got from Dr. Cavil to get this thing started. So we'll be looking for guests to come on. If you want to come on and talk about PV, give us a holler, let us know. More than welcome, PV family, looking for your support. So 2021, we're looking up.
So what is the email they can use to contact you in terms of getting more information or talking about the show? Do you have it?
They can contact, my email is jcleasy 1876 at Yahoo. That's again, jcleasy 1876 at yahoo.com. We will also put out our social media links are on the podcast. So if you go to the podcast, which is on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, all of them, all of our social media contacts will be on the links for our social media. So you can contact us via those routes.
No doubt about it. Great job on the hot seat. As I said, you got our very own Mike Washington, so I know that's going to be a teaser, putting all the great minds together.
Yeah.
Another platform where you have a lot of the men of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity involved, so that is not going to hurt as well. Just a teaser.
Not at all.
Charles, I know you wanted some news that you wanted to get out there, tough news that needed to be shared, though.
Sure. Of course, and we mentioned it earlier, 2020 being a tough year. We lost another Hall of Famer, another legend, Bethune-Cookman legend, Jack Cy McLaren. He passed away at 89. And this is a statement from a historian from Bethune-Cookman Athletics in terms of Jack Cy McLaren being the living embodiment of all things Bethune-Cookman University Athletics, whose contributions to his beloved alma mater included 7 decades as playing, coaching, and senior administrative, as well as a father figure. He passed away Monday. Yesterday, December 28th, he was 89. He was a former Pittsburgh Steel All-Pro, and he was drafted in 1953, and he served 2 years in the military, played for Pittsburgh from 1955 to 1960. But another Hall of Famer, another legend that has passed away from Bethune-Cookman University.
Well said. I'm glad that you made sure that we addressed that and put that on the table forefront. With that, Alabama A&M lands 2 quarterbacks, Power 5 offers. Thought that was big news in terms of you seeing a lot of the coaches putting in work. As one of the teams that I always say, keep your eyes on Alabama A&M.
Very much so.
coach. They got a great coach, solid program. And once they get moving in the right direction, boy, it's gonna be matchups. You talk about FAMU, Bethune-Cookman coming to the table, Jackson State, Prairie View, all pointing to the west. Wow, the conference. Oh man,
that's quarterback situation,
basketball, and those kind of things. As we're in the middle of basketball, so let's get it done. Jimmy puts out his basketball updates. He does the top 10 that he teases with his thoughts. Let's go down to his top 5. We got about 2 minutes. We'll spill over just a little bit, but I want to get both of your thoughts on this top 5. How much you agree with, don't agree with. This is on the men's side. We will start making sure that as we do with AD, we get both the men's and women's. But this week, with the time, great interview. Top 5 programs. Number 5, North Carolina A&T, 2-1 in terms of 2 D1 wins. Overall record is 3-9. Bringing us to number 4 is Morgan State, 2 D1 wins. Just another one recently, sitting at 3-2. Bringing us to number 3, Hampton. They have 3 D1 wins. 2 of them included that they started Big South play and got 2 wins. They're playing back-to-back games in the South before they move on. So that's an interesting thing. I think they came up for the SWAC. They voted it down. It'll be interesting to see if they decide to go to that somehow. Things starting to change up for them. But Hampton sits at 3-4, bringing us to number 2. Norfolk State, big win just the other day. 4 D1 wins, sitting at 4-3. At number 1, Alabama A&M sitting at 2 D1 wins, 2-0. Only played 2 games, but they got 2 victories. Think about this for Alabama A&M. You're surprised off the radar. They are undefeated. You say they just played 2 games. But one of their wins, in-state rival, but was against a mid-major top 25. The team was number 16 at the time. So big win as they are number 1 in Jimmy's poll. Let me go to Joe Clay, our guest, to get your thoughts in terms of the top 5 teams. Do you like it? Would you change it out? He does have Texas Southern at 6, Prairie View at 8, just to give you some other teams in his top 10. Outside of the top 5, what are your thoughts on that, Joe? Please.
I don't know. PV and TSU seem kind of low. You've got returning SWAC champions. You've got a TSU team that's recruited very well. So I expect them to make a lot of noise and continue to build off of what they've been building on the last couple of years. So I would raise those 2 teams a little higher. I know, Doc.
The brass tacks. People love to say that. These teams should be high. Who do you pull out?
I knew you were about to ask that question. I knew it.
That's what we do on Inside the Sports Line.
I don't know. I haven't seen them really play, so I don't know who's lost and who's replenished the talent from last year. So I don't know. And that's the tough thing about.
Slide a little bit this week as you get ready for the podcast. We'll give you a little homework assignment. This is the lab with the professor, the dean, so I can do that.
I didn't do my homework, Doc.
Gotta always be ready with the dean. Yeah.
I didn't do my homework.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna tell you like I do with them in the class. I'll put that F squared in your life. You want that F squared? You know, that F squared, you'll never survive. That's what I tell them in the class. That freshman year, boy, they all looking at me wide-eyed. Well, yeah, F squared. Yeah, I'll put an F squared in your life. It'll be on your GP, on your transcript. And what you gonna tell your employer when you got an F squared?
I was gonna try to fake it and see if you was gonna let me make it, Doc.
Yeah, good fake, but no make. Charles, what are your thoughts? Top 5 you agree with?
I like it.
You think Joe Clay has something to say right now?
Well, there are a couple of teams, and I would flip flop Norfolk State and Alabama A&M just because we don't have the body of work with Alabama A&M. Although they do have 2 impressive victories, but just not a body of work, if you will. But Norfolk State, that comeback win against George Mason, that definitely turned my head. That game against Hampton, where Devontae Carter almost had a triple-double. So they have some scoring punch. They have 2 or 3 guys that can get it done. So 4 D1 wins going into MEAC play. They're getting it done. Hampton also getting it done. So I don't have a problem too much with Jimmy's work this past week, but I got to give the nod to Norfolk State over Alabama A&M right now.
Yeah, after that breakdown, Joe Clay, you agree with Charles? Y'all already said you don't agree with Jimmy, so you on board with Charles, or you gonna be like you stand with what you said?
I'm gonna lean to Charles a little bit there. You can't look past the wins that Norfolk State pulled down. That's
No
gonna
doubt
speak
about
for
it.
themselves.
Great breakdown. It's good to have you on the show, Joe, and really proud of what you're going to do with Sports and Culture Podcast 1876 Sports and Culture Podcast. Thank you for jumping on board in the hot seat with Charles in terms of Mike Washington. Always good to have you in the house, Charles, as we do it. With that, that'll do it for us. We'll sign off. Thank you for listening to Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. That is on Spreaker. You check us out on all the podcasts as well. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Sitting in today is Joe Clay on behalf of Mike Washington. Hope you enjoyed our interview with Tiger Talk, the 1400 Club, giving you all the breakdown with Neely and Corey, the Corey, as he has it on his screen. We hope you enjoyed the interview with those gentlemen. And again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday right here at 6 o'clock. We look forward to next week. We will discuss with you the latest news on the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Joe Clay, this is the part where you say course.
Say what?
Course.
Course.
Lecture.
Course.
Lecture.
It.